He was just a poor black boy, cleaning floors in a mansion he could never afford, serving a family that never said his name with respect. They called him the Help, as if that's all he'd ever be. But what they didn't know is that the boy they looked down on was about to rise higher than they ever imagined. This isn't just a story of struggle. It's a story of power, purpose, and the moment the truth refused to stay silent. You'll never forget the name. Malik. Don't forget your place. That sentence echoed in Malik's mind every day he walked through the Monroe Mansion's towering front door. Malik was only 17, but life had already taught him the kind of lessons kids his age should never have to learn. His mother, once, a hard-working nurse, had fallen gravely ill when Malik was 13. Bills piled up, meals got smaller, and smiles became rarer in their small apartment. By 16, Malik had dropped out of school and taken on whatever work he could find, washing cars, running errands, even carrying groceries for neighbors in exchange for warm food. So when Mrs. Monroe offered him a live-in job, he took it without hesitation. "I'll take care of you like my own," she had promised his mother, placing a hand on her shoulder with a warm, practiced smile. But those words faded the moment Malik arrived. The Monroe Mansion stood like a castle on a hill, gated, polished, pristine. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, rooms so big you could get lost in them. But Malik never got to enjoy any of that. He was shown to a small room in the basement. No windows, a mattress on a metal frame, one flickering light bulb. It smelled like old wood and damp concrete. There was no warmth in it, just function. He was the Help now, and the Help didn't belong upstairs. Every morning before sunrise, Malik was up. He ironed clothes he couldn't afford. He prepared breakfasts he would never eat. He scrubbed floors so clean you could see your reflection, but he couldn't find himself in theirs. Mrs. Monroe called him Boy, even though she knew his name. Mr. Monroe rarely acknowledged him unless it was to bark an order. Take out the trash, fix the blinds, fetch his coat, and the kids, Savannah and Logan, treated him like a walking joke. Malik wore the same 2 pairs of pants all week. One shirt had a small tear near the sleeve, which he tried to hide by folding it up. Just right, Savannah noticed. "You know, you'd look way better if you dressed like a human," she said one morning, sipping juice while scrolling her phone. "Not like a whatever you are." He said nothing. Logan laughed. "He's got that permanent dusty look." More laughter, always laughter, like mocking him was a family sport. But Malik swallowed his pride every time. Not because he was weak, but because his mother still needed him. The hospital bills hadn't stopped, and he promised her he'd handle it. He kept her picture in his pocket, worn, faded, bent around the edges. Some nights he'd pull it out, look into her tired eyes, and whisper, "Almost there, Mama. Just hold on." At night, when the Monroes were asleep, Malik would sneak into the mansion's grand library, a room filled with books no one in the family ever seemed to touch. There he found something the Monroes didn't know he craved: knowledge. He read about history, about laws, about leaders who looked like him and changed the world. He learned about civil rights, about struggle, and about people who rose from the very same basement he now slept in. One quote in particular stuck with him: "They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds." Every time he felt like disappearing, that line brought him back. You see, Malik wasn't just cleaning floors. He was building himself, brick by brick, quietly, under the radar. Every page he turned in that library, every insult he ignored, every tear he wiped away alone, it all made him stronger. And even though he didn't have nice clothes or a fancy car, Malik had something the Monroes couldn't buy: character. He knew who he was, even if they didn't, even if they refused to see it. But that would all change soon, because the day was coming when Malik would no longer be just the Help. He would become the headline, the story, the truth that could no longer be ignored. If you saw the Monroe kids on Instagram, you'd think they were picture perfect. Savannah Monroe had over 80,000 followers. She posted mirror selfies with motivational quotes and pretended to care about causes like inner beauty and mental health. Logan Monroe was the All-American athlete, football star, straight teeth, varsity jacket, always flashing peace signs, always being tagged in blessed posts. But behind those smiles was something uglier. And Malik saw it every day. They loved pretending to be kind in public, but when no one else was around, their words cut deeper than knives. It started small. "Oh my God, Malik, you're still using a flip phone? That's kind of retro." Or, "You don't really get TikTok, right? I mean, it's more our vibe." But soon, the insults weren't even trying to be subtle. One morning, Savannah walked into the kitchen wearing a new cream-colored sweater. Malik was setting the table. She paused, looked him up and down, and said, "No offense, but that color would look awful on your skin tone." Malik didn't respond. He didn't flinch. He kept setting out the plates. Logan was worse. He had a way of laughing while saying the most disrespectful things, like that made it okay. "Man, do you even tan? Or are you just always that dark?" he'd say, snickering. To them, it was all just fun, light teasing. But to Malik, it felt like being reminded, over and over again, that no matter how hard he worked, he'd never be one of them. Not in their eyes. Not in this world. He was the help. And his place, they made sure, stayed beneath them. He couldn't sit on the living room couches. He couldn't eat the same meals. He couldn't even use the guest bathroom. Mrs. Monroe had once told him, "We just want to maintain certain standards, dear." But what she really meant was, "You're not one of us." Still, Malik said nothing, because silence was survival. Every dollar he made, he sent half to his mother. She'd call when she could, her voice weak but proud. "I'm okay, baby. Just keep going. You're doing so well." So Malik smiled for her. He pushed down the humiliation. He folded their laundry with precision. He memorized the sounds of their footsteps so he could avoid them. He cleaned around their mess without making a sound. But the pain was real. There were nights he stared at the ceiling in the basement and asked himself, "Is this my future? Is this all I'm meant for?" And yet, the answer was always the same. No, because even in that darkness, Malik had light. He remembered the books in the library upstairs. How they gave him a new language. He'd read about people who came from dirt floors and rose to become leaders. He memorized stories of revolutionaries who were called boy and dirty and nothing, just like him, until the world had no choice but to respect them. He practiced speaking in front of the mirror, worked on his posture, taught himself how to write like a scholar and think like a strategist. They may have mocked his skin, but they couldn't touch his mind. Savannah and Logan never noticed. Why would they? They thought he was too slow, too poor, too less than to ever matter. But Malik had a secret. He was growing, and one day, the world that tried to keep him small would have to face him at full size. Because the truth is, Malik didn't hate the Monroes. He pitied them. They had everything, wealth, power, influence, but still needed to crush someone else just to feel taller. Malik, he had his own pride, his own power. It was still quiet, still hidden, but it was there, waiting. And when it came out, it would change everything. It started like any other morning. Malik was up before the sun, sweeping the back patio, earbuds in, letting Sam Cooke's "A Change Is Gonna Come" play softly in his ears. He liked that song. It made him feel seen, even if no one in the Monroe mansion ever truly did. Inside, the Monroe family buzzed with energy. They were hosting a charity brunch. Influencers, local politicians, old money friends, the type of people who wore pearls before breakfast and spoke with smiles so sharp they could cut glass. Savannah had been prepping all week. "This brunch is going to be everything," she'd said, practically floating in her new dress. But behind the scenes, it was Malik doing everything: polishing silverware, arranging the floral centerpieces, checking the sound system. He wasn't invited, of course. He never was. He was supposed to blend into the background like furniture. But that day, something different was about to happen. One of the guests, Mrs. Caldwell, a well-known philanthropist and retired school principal, arrived early. She was sharp, older, and deeply observant. As she entered the house, she spotted Malik carrying a heavy box of audio equipment across the living room. "Young man," she said, "let me help you with that." Malik turned, surprised. No guest had ever offered to help. Ever. "Oh, thank you, ma'am, but I got it," he replied politely. She looked at him for a moment, really looked. "What's your name?" "Malik." "Malik," she repeated, smiling gently. "Are you in school?" His pause gave it away. "No, ma'am, I had to drop out." "Ah," she said thoughtfully, "but you speak well, and your posture. Do you study public speaking?" Malik chuckled, a little embarrassed. "I read books. When I can. And I practice sometimes." She was impressed. Most teens she met couldn't string two thoughts together without a screen in front of them. Malik, he had presence. Just then, Savannah came in, and her voice snapped like a whip. "Malik, can you not be in the middle of the living room right now? Guests are arriving. You're kinda blocking the vibe." Mrs. Caldwell turned toward her. "Savannah Monroe. Is that how you speak to your staff?" Savannah blinked, surprised. "I mean, no offense. He knows what I meant." Mrs. Caldwell raised an eyebrow. "Interesting." The room fell quiet. Savannah gave a fake laugh and slipped away, clearly uncomfortable. Mrs. Caldwell stayed close to Malik throughout the event, asking him questions, watching him work, even listening as he casually explained how he organized the seating charts and managed the tech system. She was stunned. "You did all this?" He nodded. "Yes, ma'am." She pulled out a card. "Malik, I'm on the board of a scholarship foundation. We help young men like you. Brilliant, overlooked, undersupported. I'd like you to apply." Malik stared at the card like it was made of gold. In a way, it was. It meant opportunity. It meant escape. It meant someone saw him. But it didn't stop there. Later that afternoon, Mrs. Caldwell made a post on her social media. "At today's brunch, I met a young man who moved me deeply. His name is Malik. He's not a guest, not from wealth, but he's smarter, kinder, and more driven than half the people in that room. He reminded me that brilliance doesn't wear a brand name. It just is." The post went viral. Suddenly, Malik wasn't invisible anymore. Former teachers reached out saying they remembered his potential. Neighbors who once ignored him began offering help. Local news stations requested interviews. But most shocking of all, Mr. Monroe called him upstairs the next morning. For the first time in nearly a year, he said Malik's name. And even more shocking, he thanked him. "We didn't know," he mumbled. Malik stood tall, calm, silent. Because what could he say that would fix the months of insults and mistreatment? Nothing. So he just said, "Now you do," and walked away. That day, the power shifted, because Malik wasn't just the help anymore. He was Malik, the boy who refused to stay in the basement. It was a Friday morning when Malik was invited to speak at the same community center where his mom used to volunteer years ago. Word had spread about him. The young black boy who worked for a rich white family, endured silent pain, and still held his head high. The boy who got noticed, not because he screamed, but because he quietly refused to shrink. The place was packed. Local students, mentors, educators, even some people from the Monroe's neighborhood, all curious to hear what he had to say. Malik stepped up to the mic. His hands shook a little, but his voice was steady, clear, honest. He took a breath. "I used to think being silent made me strong," he began. "That if I worked hard enough and kept my head down, people would respect me. That if I endured their jokes, their rules, their stares, I'd eventually belong." He paused. The room was dead silent. I was wrong. He looked out at the crowd. No one blinked. No one checked their phone. He had them. I worked in a house where I wasn't allowed to sit on the same furniture, eat at the same table, use the same bathroom. I was called boy, joked about for the color of my skin, and made to feel small every day. Gasps whispered through the room. They didn't beat me. They didn't scream. But the damage was still there, because every time I was ignored, talked down to, or joked with, what they were really saying was, "You don't belong here." He gripped the mic tighter. "But what they didn't know," he said, voice rising, "was that every insult made me stronger. Every door they closed, I found a window, and every time they tried to dim my light, I found a way to shine anyway." People nodded. Some clapped. Malik continued. "I'm not here today because I fought back with anger. I'm here because I chose to grow in silence until my truth got too big to hide." He pointed to a young black boy in the front row. "You ever feel like you gotta be quiet to stay safe?" The boy nodded slowly. Malik nodded back. "I know that feeling, but let me tell you something. Your silence should never be mistaken for weakness. And your skin, it's not a curse, it's your crown." The crowd erupted in applause, loud, raw, real. That speech went viral. Clips flooded social media. Young man speaks truth about race and class in America. From servant to speaker, Malik's message stuns local community. He was invited to more events, podcasts, interviews. Schools requested him to speak during Black History Month. Students lined up after events just to thank him. Adults wept in the crowd, saying his story reminded them of their own. But something even bigger happened. The Monroes saw the video. Mr. Monroe watched it in his office, jaw clenched. Mrs. Monroe watched it in her kitchen, face unreadable. And Savannah, who once edited Malik out of family photos, posted a comment under the video. "I didn't realize how much we hurt him. I'm sorry, it wasn't enough, not really. But for Malik, it didn't matter anymore, because this time, he wasn't trying to be part of their world. He was building his own. He started a foundation, the Seen and Heard Project, which provided mentorship, scholarships, and mental health support for underprivileged Black youth working in wealthy communities. Being. The help shouldn't mean being helpless, the mission statement read. We are not background characters in other people's stories. And just like that, Malik stopped being the boy who carried trays and scrubbed floors. He became the man who carried stories and made the world listen. Malik stood outside the house he once worked in, the Monroe Mansion, on a warm spring afternoon, now years later. Same gate, same manicured hedges, but everything felt different. Not because the house had changed, because he had. He wasn't wearing a uniform. No gloves, no cleaning supplies in his hands, just a navy blue suit, clean cut, confidence in every step. His presence didn't whisper anymore. It spoke, volumes without him saying a word. He was invited this time, not to serve hors d'oeuvres or mop floors, but as the keynote speaker for a neighborhood youth fundraiser. The Monroes, to their credit, had partnered with his foundation, the Seen and Heard Project, offering to sponsor several scholarships. Funny how the world works. As he walked through the familiar front doors, memories tried to pull him back. The weight of years spent swallowing his pride, of being overlooked and spoken down to. But those memories didn't hurt anymore. They were fuel. In the ballroom, the room was filled with faces that once never saw him. People who used to say, "Thank you," without looking up. Now their eyes followed him, and not out of discomfort, out of respect. When Malik stepped onto the stage, there was no microphone shake, no nervous pause, just a man standing in his power. He looked out at the crowd. I was once the boy in this house who was told to speak. "Les, move faster and stay in the shadows," he began, "but I'm here tonight because I refuse to let that version of myself be my ending." He told them about the foundation, how it had helped over 500 students across the country, how those students were now in college, working internships, creating businesses, breaking generational cycles. "I used to think success meant proving people wrong," he said. "Now I understand. It means proving yourself right." The applause was thunderous. But Malik didn't let it distract him, because his mission wasn't to be praised. It was to transform. After the event, a boy around 15 approached him, skinny, nervous, but with eyes that burned with the same quiet fire Malik once had. "I clean houses too," the boy said. "Sometimes I feel like nobody sees me." Malik knelt down slightly, leveling with him. "I see you, and one day the world will too, but you've got to see yourself first." The boy nodded slowly, his grip tightening around the scholarship, brochure in his hands. That moment, it meant everything, more than the press, the praise, the partnerships, because that was Malik's real reward, reaching back while moving forward. Later that evening, as Malik sat in his car outside the mansion, he pulled out a small notebook. Tattered. Old. The one he used to write in during breaks when the Monroe family wasn't looking. Inside were dreams, quotes, goals that once felt impossible. On one page in his 16-year-old handwriting, he had scribbled, "One day, I won't be invisible." He smiled, tears threatening to rise, but they didn't fall. They weren't tears of sadness. They were victory. That boy in the notebook had made it. Malik drove home to a modest but warm apartment, where framed letters from students lined the wall. "Thank you for seeing me. I never knew someone like me could be this strong. You gave me hope." He wasn't just building a future for himself. He was building a movement, one where black boys didn't have to be quiet to be safe, one where being the help didn't mean being helpless, one where worth wasn't determined by zip code or skin tone, but by heart, hustle, and healing. And every time someone asked him, "How did you go from that house to this life?" he'd say with calm, certain pride, "Because I stopped trying to be what they expected, and started becoming who I was meant to be."